So recently, you have had to adapt to the changing ecosystem, and so have we. And at FGS, we believe that change can be a good thing. Over the past year, we've been testing and improving Maple by FGS, Canada's most exhaustive fintech ecosystem platform. We believe that now, more than ever, is the time to support every player in the ecosystem: the banks, the lenders, insurers, fintech startups, fintech incumbents, and more. And as part of our COVID-19 initiative, we launched Maple by FGS to be accessed by anyone for free. We believe that data can be a powerful tool, and our mission is to revolutionize Canada's fintech ecosystem until it becomes the best on the planet. And when that happens, we will work to keep it there. Today, we will give you a brief overview of who we are and what we do, share with you in-depth Canadian fintech ecosystem insights, and take you through Maple by FGS, and show you how you can leverage it to benefit your organization's innovation. Then we will wrap up with a quick Q&A. And throughout this webinar, our team is available to answer your questions. We will be closing our doors right now, so I hope you're ready. We're very excited. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen, and we will begin. Oops. All right, so I hope that you can all see my screen right now. Welcome once again, and today we will be discovering the Canadian fintech ecosystem together. So this session is about growth. After what we all have been through, it is understandable if you don't feel up for a challenge right now. But as innovators and entrepreneurs, we all have one thing in common: the need to build. And in Canada, we are lucky to have a vibrant fintech ecosystem that can help us innovate quickly without reinventing the wheel. And stay tuned until the end. We have an exclusive offering for you towards the end of the webinar. So first, a little bit about who we are. Some of you might already know this, some of you might not. But so we are Fintech Growth Syndicate, also known as FGS, and we're an innovation advisory firm. We help companies who realize the need for growth to create strategies and solutions to get there. We track and analyze over 1,200 fintechs in Canada and use data to help companies quickly explore customer needs and untap business opportunities. Our team is really awesome. We are small, savvy, and spearheading change. There's a little over 20 of us, and our team is comprised of strategy consultants, researchers, product designers, and innovators. And what makes us different is that we are focused on the viability of strategy and insights by testing it in market before spending millions of dollars. Some of our wins since our finding are that we have tested over 100 concepts in market. We have over 30 MVPs in market and dozens of fintech partnerships. So what do? We do innovation and growth strategy. We look at the forces that are driving the need for change. We analyze things such as external drivers, internal drivers, regulatory, government, and customers' needs. Then we create the products and services of tomorrow. And our main goal is to build growth, helping you tap into customers, new customers, new markets, and new opportunities. And how do we do it? We do it through strategy implementation. We believe that a new initiative needs to be desirable, viable, and feasible. And that is a recipe for a winning product. We make sure that ideas that you take to market go through rigorous testing through the desirability and viability to first find product market fits, and then a great idea will almost always be feasible. We're also deeply engaged in the Canadian fintech ecosystem. We're actively involved with academic institutions. We're part of FData, Canadian Lenders Association, Payments Canada Stakeholder Advisory Council, and Paytex of Canada, also part of various other advisory boards. We have won multiple awards, and our favorite one was the FinTech Advisory Firm of the Year Award in 2019 at the Canadian FinTech and AI Awards. We actively engage in the ecosystem to ensure we can advise and represent the needs of stakeholders in the financial industry. So now I will pass it on to Jeet, our Director of Innovation, who will dive into the FinTech ecosystem in Canada.
Hi everyone, this is Jeet here, Director of Innovation at FGS, also known as Surinder Jeet, but as every Indian in Canada, shortened my name to Jeet. So Fintech ecosystem in Canada, really excited to talk and share our insights with you all today. I would actually start by saying that we are really lucky that Canadian ecosystem is so diverse and vibrant. And dynamic with so many players and so much potential talent that's still untapped. And while we knew that digital is a future, due to pandemic, it has sort of come faster than what we planned. But we think that, and we strongly believe that financial institutions and fintechs can collaborate and maneuver through this pandemic situation and come out as financial innovation hub in Canada. So I'd like to give you a quick glimpse into who are the major player categories in the ecosystem, and then we'll delve deeper into it during our Maple demo. But a quick overview, so starting with the big players, the financial institutions, we have 29 Schedule 1 domestic banks, 54 Schedule 2 and 3 domestic banks, 241 credit unions, 198 property and casualty insurers, and 156 life insurance. So you see, like, the financial institutions do definitely have a huge market share in the ecosystem. Moving on to the startups. So here's what we call a fintech wheel. It's a dynamic wheel that's on our platform that's called Maple. We'll delve deeper into it, but basically, just to give you a quick glimpse, it shows various sectors that exist in the Canadian fintech ecosystem and houses over 1,200 fintechs that are operating in Canada. And Kenny will actually take you through it during the demo. Here's another glimpse of how we categorize our companies. So Maple is not just a database hub, but it's an intelligent platform. We have categorized these companies basis what solutions they provide and who is their end consumer. So looking at some of these stats, we have 428 companies which have solutions for SMEs. So be it an accounting platform for SMEs or a SME lending platform, some of which are like Lendified and Clearbank, and then B2C fintechs, which are 354. And these are the companies that are catering to the end consumer directly. Challenger banks, Stack, Coho, lending institutions, alternative lenders that are lending directly to consumers are part of this category. B2B2C fintechs, 45. These are the companies that offer white label solutions that FIs can directly plug in and start offering to their consumers. Again, they make innovation move really fast in the ecosystem. Moving on to B2FI companies, these are basically companies that provide softwares like lending softwares or other financial softwares to financial institutions to be plugged into their backend to make their systems more efficient. Definitely a huge category in there. And now moving on to an interesting segment, tech giants. Every now and then we hear in news about a tech giant launching a fintech product. Definitely fintech is a dynamic space and everybody wants a share in this, and tech giants are no exception. Recently we heard a news about Google launching a Google Card. Late last year, Apple launched Apple Card with Goldman Sachs and MasterCard. So we thought we would categorize these offerings to give a clear point of view as to where are these tech giants playing in. And as you can see, digital wallet and mobile payments is a category that's very common amongst these. And it's no surprise considering how much data tech giants can actually access through mobile payments and P2P payments. And they know so much about us through that, right? And also we wanted to compare how dynamic are these product offerings in Canada. So all the red ones actually show the offerings that are also available in Canada. The black ones represent the overall global offerings of these companies. We can probably find a way to share this with you all post our webinar. Moving on, changing customer needs under the current situation. I think that's one of the biggest questions and challenge that's concerning everybody, no matter what business you are in, if you're entrepreneur or intrapreneur or managing products within a company. We definitely want to learn more about what's happening out there and how our consumer needs changing and how can we adapt to those quickly to ensure that we don't lose our market share. So at FGS, we are continuously monitoring the situation and talking to consumers, surveying them, conducting active interviews to keep our grasp strong on what are these consumer needs, because that's kind of where the innovation starts. And we strongly believe that product should be based on what our customers want. So here are some of the things that we have identified through our interviews. People are definitely insecure about their jobs right now, and that's why cash flow management is a huge concern. People are refinancing their mortgages and seeing how they can manage through the situation. And other thing is that due to cash crunch, people are definitely moving towards need versus want, definitely spending way less and saving up for the necessity purchases. Online transactions, definitely people are finding ways to get groceries or other necessities delivered home to save themselves and keep their families safe. So these are some of the major categories of consumer priorities and how they've changed for the end user. Looking on to the businesses and how the business needs have changed and what their concerns are, definitely Q1 has been slow for everybody, and some of the businesses have almost made no business. So one of the major concerns is to stay afloat and how to pivot or digitize your businesses to ensure that you could stay afloat. Reducing costs for sure, how to manage the payroll are some of the other concerns that are small businesses right now going through. So how is the industry responding to this? What are Canadian players doing, and how are different fintech categories impacted by this? So as I said, we are continuously conducting primary research in the space to stay on top of this. So we have sort of categorized our findings into different segments to deliver the insights in an efficient manner. If you look at payment space, it's one of the largest fintech category in Canada with over 350 players. And how has pandemic impacted? There definitely has been positive and negative impacts. Contactless payments and digital payments was something that was existent in the country for quite some time, but wasn't coming up as a top category. Due to pandemic, definitely a huge increase in e-commerce purchases and hence online payments. Contactless payments is another category that has seen a huge spike. We've definitely seen negative impacts, especially in POS transactions happening in store. If we don't consider the necessity purchases, POS transactions in store is actually close to nil. But what are some of the needs that are unmet and still there is an opportunity to innovate? So contactless payments, definitely one. End-to-end payment till delivery solutions is another category and a huge pain point for the consumers that presents a space to innovate. Digital wallets, cash flow and forecasting. People are definitely looking into financial counseling and how do they manage their cash flow in this current situation. Digital wallets, P2P payments, how do we manage the cash flow and cash transfers with our peers? That's another concern, considering we are not in physical contact of our peers. So these are some of the unmet needs that show where the space is to innovate. Taking one of the examples, as I earlier said, Google, we saw news about Google launching their card and sort of solidifying their presence in fintech space. And this card, it's being said it's set to rival Apple's Goldman Sachs credit card. Will definitely be a huge push to Google Pay overall, and will act as a checking account. So let's see when it's available in Canada. Moving on to Lentech. So as you can see, Lentech is the second largest category in fintech in Canada. Over 150 plus players offering solutions to both consumers and businesses. We definitely see new categories coming in for entrepreneurs and gig economy. So positive impacts, we've seen increase in government funding. Canadian government is doing a great job in getting the benefits to SMEs and also the SME funding. We have seen rise in POS financing. That's financing at the point of sale without using a credit card, but actually a solution where you can get a loan while you're purchasing an item at the checkout. Negative impacts, definitely a decline in wholesale capital and loan volumes. In-person applications, since branches are closed, agents can't reach out to consumers directly, definitely a decline in there. But there's huge potential for innovation in this space, especially when it comes to digital lending and credit counseling. Refinancing, mortgage refinancing is one big category right now. Also alternative credit scoring models that assess your credit worthiness apart from the traditional credit scores. Small business funding, definitely a huge category. So yeah, and looking at one of the examples, Shopify has been really dynamic and quick to launch offerings in terms of capital and also small business banking solution. In April, they launched Shopify Capital in Canada, which will offer merchants loans of up to 1 million. And they are dispersing these loans within 3 to 5 days. Yesterday, I saw news about small business banking solution will be launched in US for now, and soon they plan to launch it in Canada. It's a checking account for small businesses. They can withdraw funds, pay bills, track their transactions with no monthly fee, no minimum balance is needed. And other product that they announced was a payments card and rewards program for startups and entrepreneurs. As I mentioned earlier, the startups and entrepreneurs is one category that's increasing in our country, and definitely we need more fintech solutions to cater to this category. Moving on to insurance space, I think this is one which is largely impacted by pandemic. Definitely huge increase in health insurance applications and the use of cars right now. It's definitely on a standstill, I would say, but It's being forecasted that once the lockdown opens up, people would prefer to use their own cars and not travel a lot by public transport. So this might lead to increase in car insurance and other types of auto insurance products. And looking at what are the unmet needs in terms of health care and insurance, definite drug delivery, definitely a huge category. How can we get drugs delivered to consumers, be it prescription drugs or others to consumers? Online applications for health insurance, again, a huge category. Mental health care, which is being predicted by WHO too, will be a huge category that would require attention after the lockdown and will have repercussions from pandemic. Gig workers, we definitely need new products for them, especially because they are not covered by employer insurance benefits, and they would need special products to protect themselves and their families under this situation. One of the players that we have seen has moved really fast to cater to the situation has been Canada Life. They are leveraging technology and expanding their digital offerings to meet these changing demands. We saw that they partnered with Dialogue, Fintech that's based out of Montreal, to offer digital telemedicine services and virtual healthcare services. They're also collaborating with pharmacies to deliver prescription drugs to the consumers, also enabling online insurance claims. So really good example of moving fast and catering to consumer needs. Retail banking, online accounts, digital banking, as it's obvious, definitely has seen huge spike. Wallet usage was one category that was increasing, but due to pandemic has seen, again, definitely a significant increase. Branch and ATM visits have definitely declined. Spending has declined because generally people are spending less. But there are definitely few categories that would need, that represent unmet needs and show opportunity for innovation there. Digital card adoption, universal access to products, shift to digital. One of the international players, Starling Bank, it's a challenger bank based out of UK, that has come up with this offering called Connected Cards. It's catering to people who are self-isolating and are unable to do their groceries or go out and buy their necessities. So it's a spare debit card linked to your account. Doesn't really have the long card number, and you don't have to disclose the PIN, but you could give this card to a trusted healthcare provider or a caretaker, so they can do the groceries and other essential purchases for you without putting your financial accounts in danger, and protect against fraud. A lot of banks in UK, after Starling Bank launched this offering, have followed the same suit and are dispersing spare debit cards with all checking accounts. So really, really an efficient way to cater to consumer needs. So as you can see from all these examples, pandemic is definitely bringing a wave of fintech revolution. But how much can your organization benefit from it and can take this opportunity to go to another level of digital revolution is speed. And we at FGS strongly support and are proponents of innovation through partnerships. It doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel and grow through these development cycles when we have the talent in our ecosystem, and we already have companies and startups who have developed these technologies. Partnership is definitely a way to quickly adjust to consumer needs and take your dish products to another new level. So to stand for what we believe in, and also in our way to contribute to the community in this time, we are making Maple by FGS open for everybody to access. I'll let Kenny talk more about it and show you what Maple House is and how you can use it to enable partnerships and to fund different fintechs in the ecosystem. But before that, we have a quick poll to understand what are the major challenges that your organization is facing right now. I would ask Elliot. Oh, here it is. So the poll is about what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now in your business, figuring out what my customers will want post-COVID-19, staying up to date with technology, getting buy-in from senior stakeholders, understanding the market and what's going on, being able to comply with new government regulations. So which is the challenge that your organization or business is facing at this point? We'll give you a few minutes to answer.
Thank you, Jeet. So as people are just getting their, as people are getting their poll results in, I'll just set up the screen as I'm going to be running through the Maple demo.
Oh, here we have the results.
Here we go.
Understanding the market and what's going on, definitely a huge one. It's not just about customers. Companies are looking at how other players and competitors are playing and what are different categories of companies doing in the ecosystem, and also international. I think like what's happening in other geographies. It's really important to look into that to see how things will unfold in Canada. Definitely. Okay, handing over to Kenny for the Maple demo.
Awesome, thank you, Jeet. So now I'm just going to share my screen and get it all set up. So just as I'm getting this all set up, I'll just add a little reminder that if you have any questions along the way as I'm going through this demo, please don't hesitate to ask any of them in the chat to the right, and then we'll try to address as many of them as possible. Or if you just even had any questions for any other parts of our presentation, as well, just a reminder that we are currently offering the Maple Fintech, Maple by FGS for free, and we'll have a link to sign up as well in the chat to the right. So now I'll begin with our Maple demo. So once you've successfully signed up for your free Maple account, you'll be directed to the Maple landing page, which contains various widgets, which I'll quickly run through. So in the top left corner here, you'll see the Discover, which will lead you to the Discover page, which houses the data on our 1,200 plus fintech companies headquartered or operating in Canada, which I'll dive more into shortly. Here in the middle, you'll see some of the news articles that we curate from different sources. So these are generally related to fintech or innovation, primarily focused on the Canadian market. However, as you can see, we also include some global examples as well, since they are very relevant. Now moving back to the left-hand side, scrolling down, you'll see our resources widget, which includes links to our podcast, The Disrupticons, which is our weekly podcast on everything innovation and fintech. And we also include special guests each week from industry experts to provide some additional insights on the industry. And then below that, you'll see the FGS newsletter, which is our curated newsletter that can be sent directly to your emails on a weekly basis, as well as your blog right below that. Scrolling down a bit, you'll see the Add Your Company on Maple widget. So if you are currently working at a fintech company and you realize that your company isn't on Maple and you feel that they should be, or even if you just identified another fintech company that you think it may be missing from Maple, just simply click on this widget, fill in some high-level information such as the company name, a link to their website, or if they don't have one, their LinkedIn profile, as well as a company description, and then submit it, and then we'll review each entry accordingly. Now moving over to the right-hand side here, in this widget, you'll see some of the reports that FGS has published. which generally focus on some of the sectors as well as key topics around fintech. So for instance, the open banking report, and all these reports include both primary and secondary research. So if there's any report that you are interested in reading, you can simply download the report for free using this button down here. So now, as I briefly discussed before, I'll jump into the Discover page. So on this page, some of you may be familiar with it, some may not, but this is kind of our well-known fintech wheel. So basically, we currently track 1,200 plus fintech companies that are either headquartered in Canada or have operations in Canada. And with those 1,200 plus fintech players, we segment them into the following 11 sectors, which can be found on the outer edges of this wheel, or are also listed out here in the table. So in order to navigate this wheel, you could click on any of the sectors. So let's say Paytech, for example, and then you'll see that several verticals, which are basically subsectors of that respective sector, will pop up, which we further categorize each company. So if you want to see Paytech, it would be here, Lentech, and then let's say you want to go even more in depth. So let's say you're interested in wealth tech and PFM, personal financial management, and you're interested in the robo-advisor vertical because you want to learn about some of the robo-advisor offerings currently in Canada. So once you click on a vertical of interest, you will see a logo cloud pop up, which you could scroll through. And then if you are interested in learning more about any of these companies, so we'll use Wealthsimple as an example, simply click on their logo, and then a company profile page will pop up. So I'll quickly run you just some of the key variables that we track on this company profile page. So in this top right-hand corner here, we show members, highlight key members of that company's executive teams, as well as links to their LinkedIn profile. Over here, this will be a link that redirects you to that company's websites, as well as their social media platforms. In this area here are some of the key variables that Maple by FGS currently tracks on these companies. So we track year founded, stage, company size, business model, which we track B2C, B2B, B2FI, business to financial institution, and B2B2C. Category, we categorize our fintechs into either new fintech entrants or fintech incumbents, as well as the number of employees that they have in Canada, as well as total publicly disclosed funding figures stated in Canadian dollars, as well as the company status, which is private or public. Right down below that, you'll see a brief description of the company and highlighting some of its key offerings. And now going back to that funding figure, if you wanted to see, go more in depth and see what actually individual funding rounds made up this total 266.9 figure, if you scroll down here, we actually outline each individual funding round, which you could see in this bar chart and highlight over them for more information. Or if you even want to get more granular and you're interested in a specific funding round and you want to learn more about it and why maybe that capital was raised, you would click on any of these links and it'll redirect you to the respective press release for that funding round. So that's just some of the key variables that you could track for each company on Maple by FGS. And as well, that's not the only way to access companies. So for instance, if you wanted to search up Wealthsimple, you could also use our search bar, which will automatically populate as you type. Click on them through here, and then their company profile page will pop up the same way. So there's various ways to access the company profile page. As well, one of the good things about Maple is that there's several use cases. We designed it that it's not just targeted like a one size fits, or that it's not targeted just for one type of consumer. So for instance, if you're a financial institution, you might use this tool to look at partnering with some of these fintech companies. So either for, let's say, like to prove some internal organizational efficiencies, or maybe you want to improve some of your digital offerings. So for an FI, you might be interested, just for as an example, in the FI tech and software sector, and then maybe seeing some of the companies in the banking software and tech vertical and learning more about them there. If you're a fintech company, you might also want to see kind of what sector and vertical that you're operating in, and maybe learn about some of the competitors that you may not have previously known about who are operating in the same space as you, so you can learn how your products and service offerings compare and contrast to your competitors. If you're an investor, you might use this tool to identify some fintech companies that you would look to add to your portfolio. And then as well, even if you don't fall into any of these pre-mentioned categories, if you're just a general user who's just very passionate, or like a student who's very passionate about the fintech industry and just building knowledge, Maple by FGS, you're definitely in the right place. So we definitely welcome those users as well. Or even you might also be looking at some of the B2C offerings that you might want to fintech offerings that you might want to use for your personal finances. So there's several various use cases of the Maple by FGS platform. So now I'm just going to jump into the research page. So on the research page, this is kind of where you could get more nitty gritty with your data and customize it according to how you want. So on the widget on the left, you'll see several drop-down menus where you could pre-select various filters and tailor your data accordingly. So as an example, I'll just run through. Let's go with paytech, since that's seems to be a very hot sector right now. And then for vertical, you could select several verticals. So let's just go with cross-border payments, digital mobile payments, as well as peer-to-peer payments. And as you've likely noticed, as I'm selecting these filters, the charts, as well as these subsequent 4 tabs, which I'll discuss shortly, are automatically populating as you're adding on filters. So let's say you want to go even further, and maybe your area of focus is specifically in Ontario and British Columbia. So it will populate accordingly. And then some of the other charts that you'll see here include the growth tab. So the growth tab displays the number of fintech companies by year founded. The size tab displays the number of companies, fintech companies by company size. And if you actually scroll over any of these icons in the legend, it will actually show you kind of how we define each of these variables. Similar to the size tab, the stage tab will display the number of fintech companies within those pre-selected filters by company stage. And you can see how we define them all here. And then lastly, the funding tab displays the total funding from those predefined filters in aggregate form in Canadian dollars. So if you want to just reset your filters or change them up, you could click this button here. And then I'll just run through another quick example. So let's say this time you're interested in the Lentech sector. And I guess for this purpose, let's say you're an investor and maybe you were interested in just looking at some of the smaller companies. So you select these filters, and then same thing, the charts would automatically populate. So if there's any charts that are of interest to you or you want to refer back to later. So for instance, let's say for this chart, you notice, oh, there's a notable spike in Lentech's launch between 2014 and 2016. If you click this pin icon in the top right corner, you could save it to what is called your boards. So simply, you just name it a board. So I'll go Lentech's by year founded, and then create new board, and then just name that new board. So I'll go Lentech stats, click OK. And then in order to access your boards, simply click on this hamburger menu in the top right corner, and you'll see a drop down. Click on the My Boards button. And here you'll see all of the boards that you have previously created. And you could create several boards, and within each board, you could actually create several charts. So you could tailor your data in various ways. And then if you just click on it, you'll see the chart that we have previously saved. And what's nice too is it also shows you the filters that you had already selected, just in case you happen to forget. So now you might be also wondering, how does FGS or Maple by FGS define these 11 sectors? Or how do we define the verticals that fall within each sectors? Or how do we differentiate a new fintech entrant from a fintech incumbent? All of those questions could be answered here in the data definitions dictionary, which could also be found in our drop-down menu here, which will show the data definitions for all the terms that we use on Maple. As well, if you still have any additional questions just on anything Maple related, you might want to check the frequently asked questions tab right here, where some of those questions may have already been addressed. However, if your question has not been addressed, don't worry, you can reach out to us at maple@fintechgrowthsyndicate.com, which will drop in the chat to the right. As well, we also have our live chat specialist here. If you click on this icon in the bottom right corner, he will answer any of your fintech or Maple related questions promptly. And lastly, if you want to access any of our social media accounts, simply click on any of these links in our footer below. So that's basically a quick rundown of Maple by FGS. And now I'm going to jump back into the slide deck just to talk about our exclusive offering. So at FGS, our goal is to ultimately reshape the future of finance. And now, especially more than ever, is when companies need to innovate and focus on their growth strategies. And as we've made aware, Maple by FGS platform is currently being offered for free, but our value at FGS is not just providing data, but delivering the analysis and insights on top of that data to help drive your company's growth, which is included in our Maple Plus offering, which I'm going to discuss briefly now. So currently for Maple Plus, we're offering a growth snapshot, which is a comprehensive analysis of your business environment. In other words, it's an external view of the opportunities for growth in your business. So just highlighting some of the items that would be included in this deliverable would be, first, in the discovery phase, we'd meet with your business and understand some of the pressing needs, current challenges, and areas that you would like to grow in. And then following that, we would conduct an external analysis, which would analyze the forces that are driving the need for change to your existing business. So some examples of these would be technology, competitors, how your product and services are comparing to your competitors, and if there's any ways to gain a competitive advantage on them, some of the regulatory frameworks that directly affect your business, as well as customer needs. As we obviously know, especially during these times, customers' demands and needs are changing rapidly. So we'll be on top of that with our external analysis. And then following that, we'll conduct a brainstorming where we'll identify several opportunities for growth. And then once we have compiled a sizable list of that, we will prioritize those opportunities based on several variables, such as your business needs or the feasibility of the project, etc. And this deliverable will be delivered in a report format, which we're calling the growth snapshot. And we're currently offering this for 15,000 Canadian dollars, and it will be delivered in approximately 3 weeks. We will be providing more information on this deliverable in an email to all attendees shortly after the webinar. So now I'm going to hand it back to Fru.
Thank you so much, Kenny and G. This was very interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation so far and the demo. So if you would like to stay up to date with our upcoming webinars, please subscribe to our newsletter. We will add the link in the chat. You can sign up for Maple by FGS for free at app.mapleecosystem.ca. The link is also in the chat. And then once again, ask us questions. And Elliot just shared it with you few minutes ago, so it's available right here in the chat. And then also we will be sending these links later on in the follow-up email. So right now we will open the floor to questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. There are some questions that were asked during Kenny's Maple demo, so I will just redirect them to this one specifically for Kenny. So we got a question from Randy, which was a very good one. How does this compare? How does Maple by FGS compare to Crunchbase?
So yeah, I mean, obviously both platforms have a lot of data, but I think definitely one of the biggest values of Maple is we believe we are the most comprehensive fintech database in Canada, and especially the way that we segment it, especially as I was showing before on the fintech ecosystem wheel, how you could tailor or get really granular into specific sectors and verticals, and kind of, especially with those logos, once you see it, you can kind of see all the companies that are operating within certain sectors and verticals. So I think that's one of like the biggest value adds of the Maple by FGS platforms and differentiators, is that not just the amount of data we have, but the way we organize it and how the usability and to make it very intuitive to access these companies being organized into those sectors, verticals, as well as the other categories that I discussed on the company profile page.
Thank you, Kenny. Okay, so we have a few more questions. There's one question about from Ali on, are you able to drive down into the underlying companies for data visualization? Not sure exactly what that means. I'm assuming it's more of a deep dive into the data and how it's seen. And Kenny, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, sorry, do you mind just repeating the question?
Yeah, so the question is, are you able to drive down into the underlying companies for data visualization?
Are you able to drive down into the underlying companies? Okay, I'm just hoping I understand this correctly. So the underlying data, sorry?
Sorry, I can clarify here.
Okay, thank you.
So with the data visualizations, especially with geography, you say this number are, like when you're filtering down, you say this number are Paytech, and then you go, okay, these number are B2C. Can you see what those companies are after you filtered?
Okay, thank you. That clears it up a lot. So currently, you're unable to see those companies within those pre-selected filters on Maple. However, this is actually something that is definitely on our radar to add to Maple down the road, and actually has been a frequently asked question. So that's definitely something that currently we don't have it, but that's definitely something that we're aiming to have down the road on Maple.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have one more question from Angelica. The question is, in connection with USMCA, such agreement will affect our fintech ecosystem. I'm not sure exactly what this question means. We can answer this question later on. Feel free to send us an email at maple@fintechgrowthsyndicate.com, and we can look into more about USMCA for you.
I can
Okay.
I can talk a little bit about it.
Oh, great. I have no idea. Thank you.
Yeah, Angelica, if I'm not wrong, you're talking about the free trade agreement. We have been looking into it. I think it's just too early to say what all sectors and segments will be affected, but definitely if you're interested in like going more deep into it and would like to learn more into it, feel free to reach out to us and we can definitely arrange a session for you.
All right, thank you, Jeet. I had no idea what USMCA means. Sorry about that. So we have a fun question from Tariq. So what did Kenny do to get all those trophies and ribbons from?
Well, this is actually, yeah, funny you asked, because this is actually currently my brother's room since he moved out. So I can't take credit for all those. So, but they would be all hockey related. Our family was all big into hockey. We're all one sport wonders. So yeah, those will all be from various hockey tournaments. And this room, I probably stay in 90% of the time because it's my work room during the day, and then my music room for guitar, and you can see the drums in the background at night. So I barely leave this room. So yeah.
All right, thank you. That was a funny question. So we'll answer one more question. So one from Rohit. Thank you so much for asking the question. So the question is it all focused on Canadian ecosystem? I saw Starling Bank in your presentation, which is from UK. What about partnership with other fintech hubs and bodies across the world? I will let Kenny and Jeet to answer this question.
Sure. Yeah. So, Jeet, you want to take it?
Go ahead. I was just going to say that we definitely are in touch with a lot of global organizations too. But our aim is to focus on the Canadian ecosystem and ensure that the Canadian fintechs are well represented and to make sure that it's exhaustive. But go ahead, Kenny. I think you can add more.
Yeah, for sure. So just to add on to that, at least on Maple by FGS, in terms of the 1,200 plus fintechs that we track, currently the criteria for that is they either need to be headquartered in Canada or have operations in Canada. However, as you can see in the news section, and we do keep track of what's happening globally, but in terms of the companies in our database, it's Canadian focused. However, it is very important to obviously keep track of some of the things going on globally, like open banking around the world, because obviously that will eventually have impacts on the Canadian market. So I'd say in terms of the companies in our database, it's headquartered in Canada or operating in Canada. So that could include companies that are headquartered outside of Canada, but you could still use their offerings in Canada. And then we still always are keeping track of what's going on globally related to fintech.
So we hope that answered your question. Thank you so much, Kenny and Jeet. So we will take that last question that Daniel has asked. What type of contact info is provided for each fintech? Just LinkedIn? Thanks. So Kenny?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So for the type of contact info for the company, we'll include the company's website as well. We also have the executive team in that top right corner there where it will redirect to their respective LinkedIn profiles. As well, yeah, we have links to all their social media pages. So not just LinkedIn, but if they have a Facebook page, as well as a Twitter page or Crunchbase. So basically, yeah, you could contact them various ways so that if you want to reach out through their website, you could click the link to their website, or you could, if you're feeling reaching out directly to their executive team via their LinkedIn profiles, you could access them that way as well. And those could all be found on each individual company profile pages.
Thank you, Kenny, for answering the question. And thank you, Daniel, for asking the question. So now we will be wrapping up our webinar. And so from all of us at FGS, we would like to thank every single one of you for joining us today. Next week, we will be hosting the third webinar in our series. More details are to come. Subscribe to our newsletter if you are not already to get personal invites to our webinars. Link is provided in the chat. Also, please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you go on Maple, you can get links for all those things also. So later on, we will follow up with an email to everyone with all the links that we mentioned in the webinar that you can share with your team. And thank you so much once again for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed it just as much as we did.
Thanks, everyone.